Letter to my children. Dear Levi, dear Rafi, I decided to write you a letter for Yom Kippur this year. It will be years before you're old enough to read what's in it, but there are things that I have to say that I think shouldn't be forgotten. Also, I found out at the beginning of the High Holidays that my friend Rabbi Greg Harris is also reading a letter to his children this year on the High Holidays. And after being annoyed that we wore the same thing to prom, I realized that this is great for me. Because if his letter is better, yours might have a little whiteout on it. I know Abba has terrible jokes, but it's because what I want to talk to you about is so desperately unfunny, which is that I want to talk to you about the war in Gaza. I want to talk to you about anti-Semitism. The reason I want to talk to you about it is because I go to work every day and I see my people, and that's what's written on the lines of worry in their face. That's what's there in the set in their shoulders as they bear the strain of the weight of it. That is what breaks their heart and divides it between anger and despair and shame and rage. My deepest and fondest wish is that by the time you're old enough to read it, all of this will have been a bad memory and you will have been like, God, that was crazy, Abba, before you go out and live your lives of joy and of peace. But in case that's not the case, in case these problems, God forbid, are still here, I feel like it's my responsibility to help you shift the weight of them and to do whatever you can to use the momentum gained thereby to help fix in any small way this broken world of ours. Now, there's a verse in the book of Proverbs that says, train a child up in the way they should go, and when they are old, they will never depart from it. And that is the most hysterical verse in the Bible. All available evidence seems to indicate that the point of teenagers is to take what you love, what you have dedicated yourself to, what you have fought for all your life, the ways that you've sacrificed yourself to them, and to roll their eyes at it so hard you can hear the sound. Parents can't tell their children what to think. All children grow in response to what their parents think. And so I'm not here to point the way that you should go, but if I'm lucky enough, if I have enough merit, if I'm brave enough, my wish is to put a compass in your hand and to teach you how to use it. And before I get to the main event, I have to tell you a little bit about how I found my compass, how my compass was given to me, because what I'm not trying to do is give you 140 characters and send you on your way. The brittleness of the social media echo chambers that you hear break people, they don't make people. And you need more than that to be able to face the difficulty that the worlds present in front of us, much more than this, a new way of thinking and a different way of approaching. So let me tell you how I was taught to think. I was old enough when I started learning my Torah to appreciate it and young enough still to devote most of my time to it. I was 22 years old when I went to rabbinical school and started studying Torah full time. And what my teachers did for me there was no less than a miracle. It was Tchiyat HaMeitim, the resurrection of the dead. Because I'm telling you right now, there are people who've been dead and buried 1,000 years, except that they are alive to me. And not only that, but they taught me straight out of the Pesach Haggadah. Each and every person needs to see themselves as if they personally went out of Egypt. And I am telling you right now, I can taste the dust of Egypt in my mouth. I remember what Deborah the judge's face looked like as she started giving her general Barak, who was no small bro, by the way, a hard time because he wouldn't go to war without her. I remember what the room sounded like when Nachmanides successfully defended the Talmud against the Dominicans in the 1200s in Barcelona. I was in the gallery when Theodor Herzl was sitting watching the trial of an innocent man, Alfred Dreyfus, who was being convicted of treason that had led into explosion of anti-Jewish hatred all over the country. I watched his face. I know I'm here, but I'm telling you, I was there. That is what my teachers did for me. And all those hundreds of moments, in truth, the hundreds of thousands of moments, because we have lived so long as a people that we have faced every possible circumstance that humanity has to offer. And we've made every conceivable mistake thereby. that all those moments, they are the points of my compass. And the reason I'm saying this to you is because when I hear people in our time talk about moral quandaries, they seem often just to have one or two points to their compass. And I know why. It's because in the 20th century, the heart was scooped out of us. The Holocaust didn't just destroy people. It destroyed communities. It destroyed memories. It took the beautiful tapestry of Jewish life that was on every continent in this world, with the exception of Antarctica, and really, who knows? Right? And it made all of those places Auschwitz. Sorry, just got distracted there for a second. I have heard in the past weeks, more times than I can count, that we are living in 1930s Berlin. 1930s Berlin, 1930s Berlin. And far be it from me, by the way, to call the people who are saying that, to tell them that they're crazy, because the resonances to the decade are scary. And yet, one of the things I've noticed is that at this point in time, I've heard 1930s Berlin from progressive radical progressives, from a MAGA Republican that I know, actually multiple of them online, from Zionists and anti-Zionists, all agree that we are living in 1930s Berlin. They just disagree about who's wearing the swastika armbands. And when you run into like a logic fault like that, a miscomputation like that, you have to pay attention, my sons. You have to bear witness to that, because something is off, and some element of skepticism needs to be injected into the equation at that point. Testing. And let me tell you something else. Our people have a strength which is a weakness, and a weakness which is a strength, which is that our altruism, our humanitarianism, is indelibly linked to our messianism. We are not content just to fix a problem for now. The Jewish people are always trying to slam dunk it and fix all the problems of the world forever. Those people who have tikkun olam at the heart of what they care about and what they do, God bless you, but it presumes the world can be fixed. Look, I don't want to bring out the big guns here, but no less a master than Yoda once said, always his eyes on the horizon, never his eyes on where he was, what he was doing. And I think that every successive Jewish generation always believes that we are just a few hours before the dawn of a brave new world if we can but reach it. And it's so beautiful, and it's so lovely, and it's the reason that we are so schizophrenic, and it's the reason that we are at the vanguard of way too many contradictory social movements. How is it possible that a single people has Judith Butler and Laura Loomer? Also, how is it possible to have Laura Loomer? Right? There are Jews who are deeply into the movement of decolonialism and anti-racism, but also Jews who are deeply in leading leaders in neoconservatism. I think Bill Kristol lives 10 miles from here, 20 miles from here. He's a really nice guy, by the way. And before neoconservatism, it was the leaders of the protest movement in the 60s, and somehow the leaders of the protest movement in the 60s also became the neoconservatives. Explain that one to me. Before that, it was the harsh reaction, the American reaction against communism. And before that, it was just communism. Before that, we were harbingers of the Enlightenment, except that we also opposed the Enlightenment. And you can go to Williamsburg and see the evidence of that. We helped bring atheism to the world, which is hilarious because we also helped bring monotheism to the world. And the first step is admitting that you have a problem. What else explains that 50 years ago, wide swaths of American Jewry were absolutely convinced that the state of Israel would be the solution to all of our problems? And 50 years later, wide swaths of American Jewry are absolutely convinced that the state of Israel is the cause of all of our problems. So to the points, your Ima and I hope that you come to love Israel as we do. We hope you come to love the breadth and the beauty of it. We hope you come to love all the peoples of it. We hope you come to love its historical significance. We hope you come to love its spiritual power. We hope you realize what a political miracle it was for our family. If your Saba and Savta hadn't been able to make it out of Russia and Lithuania to get to Eretz Yisrael, you would not be. We hope that you love it, and we hope that you realize that as an outsized need to protect itself in Tehran, there is a clock, and that clock is counting down days, numbers, and minutes to the putative destruction of the state of Israel. All these things are true. And yet, it has been almost 2 years of war. After one of the worst travesties ever to happen to our people in the modern era. But Ima and I look at this and we have started to ask ourselves, how much blood are we allowed to have in our hands? In early March, the state of Israel, which controlled all the entrances to Gaza at that point, both north and south, they had taken over the Rafah crossing in the south, cut off all aid into Gaza for 78 days. More than 2 months. No food, no medicine. It was finally released 78 days later, where 500 trucks had gone in a day before, 5 were allowed in. And I'll tell you, I know that there are states in the world that use this as a tactic in order to provoke surrender, to prompt negotiation, to force a political movement to end a war. And I can't be part of it. I can't. I can't be part of something that only starves children to death. I know that might not even be the intention, but that's the fact of it. When the gates were finally opened and aid stations were set up, thousands of Palestinians started running for the very brief hours in the morning that they were allowed to get aid. And a fear of being overwhelmed, at this point in time confirmed, IDF soldiers opened fire on those hungry people no less than 19 times. At least 3 of those times they used artillery. A different story, not in Gaza, but in the West Bank. There's a village called Al-Khir, which is south of Hebron. It's next to a settlement called Carmel, and in that village lived a man whose name was Oda Hatalin. Sam, did you know Oda personally?
No, I don't.
Yeah, a lot of people in this community know him. He was involved in the making of the movie No Other Land, and I have friends who knew him. Oda had a wife, and he had 3 children. He was a Palestinian activist committed to nonviolence. And one day he's sitting in his village of Al-Khir, and he sees an excavator, big one, start rolling in. It's got gear on the end of it that's clearly made for breaking something up, that spike that some of those excavators have. And the villagers are watching it with increasing alarm. And they finally figure out that it's heading towards the sewage and water pipes that connect the village to utilities. And so people start filming and they start yelling, and a man gets in front of the excavator and he starts waving his hands like this. You can see it on the video. And the man driving the excavator, he takes the arm of the excavator and he sort of swings it, and it hits the guy on the head and shoulders and knocks him flying out of the way. And in front of this excavator is watching an Israeli man whose name is Yinon Levi. And Yinon Levi has the strange distinction of being sanctioned for his extremist efforts, both by the United States and by the United Kingdom. And Yinon Levi has a gun. And after the man is knocked to the side, some of the villagers start throwing stones at the excavator. And at this point in time, Yinon Levi raises his hand and he starts firing indiscriminately. And about 100 feet away, just sitting by the community center, Aldo was shot. And he died on the spot. Do you know how long Yinon Levi sat in prison for? He never sat in prison. He was under house arrest for 3 days. 2 weeks later, he came back with that excavator and broke the village's water pipe into 4 places. And so my children whom I love, my children whom I hope will love Israel, I have a question for you. And I will ask it of you, and I will ask it of me over and over again, which is, it's not enough to love Israel, but I ask you, which Israel do you love? Because if it's Yinon Levi's Israel, I will spend my life fighting against it? Which Israel do you love, my children? You know, it's the 30th anniversary in a month of the death of Yitzhak Rabin, mostly unnoticed in the Jewish community. Hopefully we will find a way to notice it here. Do you love the Israel of Yitzhak Rabin? Or are you choosing the Israel of Yigal Amir, the man who shot him for trying to make peace? Do you love the Israel that Ben Gurion stated in the Declaration of Independence? The state of Israel will promote the development of the country for the benefit of all of its inhabitants. It will be based on precepts of liberty, justice, and peace taught by the Hebrew prophets, will uphold the full social and political equality of its citizens without distinction of race, creed, or sex, will guarantee full freedom of conscience, worship, education, and culture. We offer peace and amity to the neighboring states and all of their peoples and invite them to cooperate with the independent Jewish nation for the common good of all. Is that the Israel that you love? Or is it a different Israel? The Israel of this man who gave a final interview soon before his death. The interview was in 2009, and this is what he said. He said, you know, about the Arabs, they won't be able to face war with us anymore, which will include withholding food from Arab cities, preventing education, terminating electrical power, and more. They won't be able to exist, and they will run away from here. But it all depends on the war and whether we win the battles with them. There is no solution but force and strong military rule. Any outbreak will bring upon the Arabs enormous suffering. We shouldn't wait for a big uprising to start, but rather act immediately with great force to prevent them from carrying on. If it's possible, we should conquer any disputed territory in the land of Israel, conquer and hold it. Even if it brings us years of war, we should conquer Gaza, parts of the Galilee, and the Golan. This will bring us a bloody war since it is difficult, but that's the only way to survive here. That man's name was Ben-Sion Netanyahu, the father of the current prime minister of the state of Israel and a foundational Zionist thinker who was incredibly influential when the state came to be. So you tell me, my children, which Israel is it that you love? Now, it's possible that you may come and say to me what many in this community have heard from their children. The generational divide between has had people who love Israel and who have children who come and say, I don't. You may come and say, I love Palestine. I will love you and probably give you hell for it. But if you come to say that to me, I will ask you a question. And you can probably guess now, I hope, what the question will be, which is, my children, which Palestine? Does anybody remember the name Elias Rodriguez? You will. He shot Yaron Lipshinsky and Sarah Milgram outside of the Capitol Jewish Museum just a few months ago. And as he shot them and reloaded and shot them some more, what was he heard saying? I did it for Gaza. I did it for Palestine. Is that the Palestine you're talking to me about? Or is it the Palestine of Ahmed Fouad al-Khatib, who is a Palestinian activist who is anti-Hamas, who says things like, if you support the Palestinians' people's right to freedom and self-determination, please stop talking about globalizing in the Intifada. I lived through the second Intifada in Gaza, and I swear it was deadly, violent, painful, scary, and I, along with many others, almost lost our lives because of it many times. Please don't praise Hamas's Al-Qassam brigades. Please don't advocate for violence against Israeli or Jews, including those with whom you strongly disagree. Please never tolerate anti-Semitism and be aware of how anti-Zionism can easily slide into anti-Semitism, though they're not the same. And I, of course, don't believe that any criticism of Israel's actions and policies is automatically anti-Semitic. Please remember that Palestinians want a state of their own, and as such, you should promote the two-state solution regardless of how seemingly impossible it is. Which Palestine? Is it the Palestine of the Charter of Hamas, which dictates the destruction of the Zionist entity, no negotiation, no capitulation, that every square inch belongs to the Arab people and the Arab people alone? Or is it the Palestine described last week by Mahmoud Abbas, who is no less than the head of Fatah, the Palestinian Authority? He said this in public. And I say to the Israeli people, our future and your future lie in peace. Let the violence and war end. Our generations deserve to live in security and freedom so that the peoples of our region may live in lasting peace and with good neighborliness. On this occasion, I wish all Jews around the world Happy New Year. In that same speech, he upheld the right of Israel's existence, the right to defend itself, the travesty that was October 7th, and the necessity of a two-state solution. Which Israel, my children? Which Palestine? When you come to talk to me about this, I hope that the way that you speak to me about this, of course, it needs to include, I think, some reference to the Holocaust, but I hope it includes more than that. Far be it from me to somehow denigrate or lessen the importance of the Holocaust, but in the Holocaust, all directions, you get there by cattle car, and everyone is a Nazi. And cattle cars only lead one place. And it's a sin to make peace with Nazis. But you know what it's not a sin to do? It's not a sin to make peace with enemies. We just read it. What should we do? What is the vision of the prophet? To beat swords into plowshares and spears into pruning hooks? That nation shall not lift up sword against nation, now that it should know no war. That every person should sit in security under their fig tree and under their palm tree and their fig leaf, and not know fear. And to quote Rabin, you don't make peace with your friends. More than that, I want to say to you that whatever movement for redemption that you assign yourself to, that you tie yourself to, that you bind yourself to, whatever movement of social change that you believe will bring redemption to the world, I want you to realize that the more that you face towards it, there is that which is behind your shoulder, which it is possible that you have forgotten and not seen. And more often than not, that what you have forgotten is a who that you have forgotten, and that who is suffering. Suffering. On Yom Kippur in the Yonatan Tokef, we say that God is Zocheret Kol Nishkachot. God remembers that which is forgotten. And when you are called to account, it will not be just to what you devoted your life, but who you forgot while you were running in that direction. Only now do I get to anti-Semitism. But in certain ways, I feel like it's been behind every word that I've shared with you in this letter. I need to say something that I feel is very important, that I think is going to be hard to hear, even though I promise you that it is true, which is Jews do not create anti-Semitism. We don't. Anti-Semitism is the unreasonable permission that the world gives itself to single out the Jews. It's created by ridiculous kinds of factors, lack of feeling of social mobility and control, tons and tons of immigration. Somehow the damned economy is involved in there. I would also say expiation for guilt and wrongdoing that can be projected on a numerically small amount of people. The Jews don't create anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is created upon us. And so, yes, it is absurd when a white woman from Nebraska is yelling about Jews stealing land in Palestine. And not because we shouldn't listen to the point, but because, do you know the history of Nebraska? I'm telling you this because there is one thing I hope to keep you from, which is the hope that by joining yourself together with universal social movements for social change, that you will somehow, by means of this, also stop anti-Semitism, because I have lost count of the number of social movements who eventually turned back on us, or for whose excesses we were blamed. I was living in Poland as a student rabbi over a summer when the truth about a post-Holocaust massacre in a town called Yudvavne was revealed. What happened in Yuvavne is that the Jews were coming back from the camps, and they wanted their houses back, but the villagers got together, and they didn't want to give the houses back. So God help us, Rahman al-Litzman, they killed all the Jews returning from the camps. People survived the camps to die there. And there had been rumors about it for a long time, but finally, in the early 2000s, the truth was revealed. And the Cardinal of Warsaw, Cardinal Glempt, if I remember correctly, gives an interview in which he says, we will apologize to the Jews for Yudvavne when they apologize for bringing communism to Poland. And so one of the things I'm telling you is that you're going to have to fight in more directions than just one. Look, there is a teaching in Jewish history that is so well known and so hackneyed that people are like, it's boring, like give us something new, Rabbi. But I'm telling you right now, it's the teaching for this moment. It's the teaching for this moment. I want you to recover it, renew it, listen to it, and put it into your hearts, my children. It's the teaching for this moment. And it's so well known that you could probably repeat it back to me. If I am not for myself. No, you got a little mixed up in there. If I am not for myself, who will be? If I am only for myself, what am? And if not now? It is such a foundational teaching because it takes three questions that are in tension with each other, but those 3 points allow you to, by some kind of moral trigonometry, know where you are, and that's how you know where you can go. That's how you find your moral conscience. Let all 3 of them live inside of you. What I'm telling you right now is that the Jewish people of the past decades, they have taken this beautiful peace thing and they've broken it into 3. There are the Jews who say, if I'm not for myself, who will be for me? And there are Jews who say, if I am only for myself, who am I? And they don't get along with each other. It's an uncomfortable Thanksgiving. And then there's a younger generation who says, if not now, when? Like, let's move on with this already, and who can blame them? Also, if not now, is its own organization. It's confusing. It's a whole thing. I ask you to let this teaching live inside of your hearts, the tension of it, the pull of it. That pull will bring motion. Those contradictory questions will allow you to stand in a place of understanding. It will allow you to remember the forgotten and seek redemption even in a practical way. It will push you forward into the now and also remind you that not everything has to be right now, and don't leave yourself behind as you're running towards the future. But most importantly, what I want to say to you, my children, is this. Yivarech Adonai v'yishmerecha. May the Holy One bless and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka. May the divine light shine upon you and be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May the Holy One be kind to you and more than anything else. I bless you with peace. Shana tova.